Hi, I'm Bobby, and in today's video I'm going to be talking to you about reading slumps. I'm going to be talking about my experience with some reading slumps and then giving you a few tips on how I personally deal with them. So over the past year I've found that I've had quite a lot of reading slumps. Like, I just seem to be going in and out of them every few weeks or so. Particularly in the second half of 2020, when I was in a reading slump from maybe September onwards. And I don't think it's the books I was reading, because I was enjoying a lot of the books that I read, but then I was only reading like 1 or 2 books a month, when before the summer I'd read like 8 or 9 books in April and about 6 or 7 in May. So that is actually a lot more than I'd normally read. My average is about 4 books a month. I do go through a lot of reading slumps, and I do feel particularly prone to them at the moment. This is like the first time in a while that I haven't had a reading slump for about a month, and I'm really hoping that I can just stay with this motivation for the moment, because it feels really good. It got to the point at the end of 2020 when I was just feeling like I didn't know who I was anymore. Like, I was losing my sense of self, because reading is such a huge part of my identity. And when I'm not reading, it just makes me think, like, who am I now? Like, what interests do I have other than this thing which I no longer have an interest in at the moment? So it actually gets really difficult for me to cope with at times. So I just want to give you a few ideas for how to manage it, how to maybe encourage yourself back into the reading habit, because I feel like me, it gets really stressful when you're not reading for a long time. So I have 6 tips for you today, and hopefully a couple of these will help you. So my first suggestion today is to read a popular book. If there's a book that loads of people are talking about at the time and everyone's getting excited about, you hear a lot of buzz about it, try picking it up. Maybe there's a reason it's popular. Maybe hearing other people talking about it will remind you why you want to read. There'll be more people to talk to about it, lots of people to share your enjoyment and enthusiasm, and sometimes that's all you need to help you get going. Often popular books have some kind of appeal to lots of different kinds of people, so it might just have some little something for you that will grab your attention and get you back into that flow of reading again. My second tip is to read a book that is from a different genre than you usually read, or outside of your comfort zone in some way. Sometimes branching out can help you sort of find something new that you enjoy. If you try it, you don't like it, it's fine. It's reminded you about what you do like. If you try it and you love it, it gives you a whole range of new books that you can explore. And maybe that's just the kick that you need to get you reading more books. Tip number 3 is set a daily reading goal. So from the beginning of 2021, I set myself a daily reading goal to read 66 pages on weekdays and 85 pages on weekends. Now, I know this is a bit of a stretch for me, but I also find that if I give myself a stretch goal, then I've got something a bit higher to aim for, and if I don't quite reach it, I'm still like pleased with what I've achieved. But if I do reach it, then it's amazing, and I'm definitely on track to reach my outrageous reading goal for the end of the year. But it also turns it into a game, so you have a little sort of external encouragement. Now, you don't have to go for like 60 or 80 pages or whatever. If you're not in a reading mood at the moment, maybe just say 1 chapter or 5 to 10 pages. Sometimes just reading those few pages can get you into a flow of reading, and you might read a little bit further. You might read like 20 pages, you might read 50 or 100 pages, and you might get really engrossed in your book and enjoy it, and then you're back to your normal reading state. And even when you only have a few pages as your challenge, you're still getting some reading done every day, which is more than you might have been doing before when you first went into your reading slump. Like, sometimes reading slumps put you off reading completely, but if you just read like a few pages, you're still working your way towards your end goal of completing a certain number of books for the year, if that is your goal. And like I said, once you get into the flow of reading, sometimes it's just the trouble of opening a book which is the difficult part. I often find that if I'm not feeling like reading, it's just the idea of opening a book just sounds like too much effort. But once I've actually sat down and started reading, I'm just like, oh yeah, I really enjoy the story and I want to keep reading. So perhaps this is just an extra little kick to get you to sit down and open a book for a few minutes. My fourth tip is to think about why you enjoy reading. So this is quite a simple one, but it can be really effective, particularly for me. I don't know about anyone else, but I do find this really effective. So sometimes I would just think about like what it is about stories that I enjoy, if it's the different worlds, the characters, or just a bit of escapism from reality, particularly at times like now when everything is awful and you want to live in a fantasy world with magic and monsters and no pandemic. But remembering why you enjoy reading and what it is about stories that you like can relight your fire and get your energy back for reading. Sometimes I find I think about it a lot. I get really obsessed with thinking about what I love about reading and just thinking about sitting there and turning the pages and enjoying the feel of holding a book and the smell of the book and just being absorbed in my own little cocoon of fantasy world. So you could try like getting really absorbed by this idea of why you love reading. Think about it anytime when you are not reading. So then when you're like, if you're at work and you're bored and you just think about, oh, I could be reading and this is what I enjoy about reading. So that the next time you get a free moment where you can read, that's what you want to do. It sometimes helps for me and it might be something that you want to try. Tip number 5 is something that I find really helps me get in the mood for reading, and that is watching reading vlogs. So I often find that if I'm watching another avid reader reading something they really enjoy, talking about what they enjoy about reading, and just spending their whole weekend or their evenings every night just reading books that they enjoy, it makes me want to do the same. It might encourage you to read the same books, it might encourage you to just sit down and put music on like they do and sit and read. And just seeing people enjoying their reading just reminds me that I do enjoy reading and I just want to spend some more time with a book. Also, hearing people talking about what they enjoy about reading and like the stories that they're reading and just being like, I'm up to this point in the book and it's really exciting and this is happening and I feel like this, and that reminds you that like your books give you all these different emotions, and it's why I love reading. I love feeling all these emotions for all these different characters and just seeing a different world to what I normally see, and it's just so much fun and so interesting watching other people go through that, particularly if they're reading a book that either I've already read or that I'm really looking forward to reading. I like seeing how they experience that reading, and it helps me connect to other people as well. On a similar note, point number 6 is reading with friends. Now this can either be physically sitting next to someone reading either the same book or different books. You can do it over Skype or Zoom or whatever you're using. Or you can sit with YouTube and watch one of these live reading chats that lots of people are doing at the moment, where they'll have like a 45-minute reading sprint and then they'll sit and chat with their friends, or they'll talk to people in the comments and then they'll have another like half-hour reading sprint. And it's just nice to have someone there to encourage you to read, and when the time is going and when you're watching someone on screen who's just sitting there with their nose in a book and really enjoying themselves, you sort of feel, not pressure, but you feel the need to open your book and read with them so that you can feel connected to them. And I find that the social aspect of reading is maybe something people forget about a lot. Like, I'm not an overly social person, which is why I'm sitting here on my own instead of talking to other people in real life. But talking to friends about why I enjoy my books and encouraging them to read the books that I like, this is something that really bonds readers, And if you can do it online with total strangers and that's all, then it's really fun and it helps you connect and make new friends. So I think that it is a really, really beautiful thing to do if you can just sit with someone either physically or virtually and just read a story together and share your enjoyment for reading. Another idea connected to this is you could start your own book club. There are loads of book clubs throughout YouTube, or you can have your own with your friends, and you can talk about the same book and share your enjoyment for it, and it will encourage you to actually do some reading because you've got this commitment, but it will also help you make a connection with someone else, and you can share the joy of this book, or, you know, hatred for a book, and you can sit together and talk about it. Or you can encourage each other to keep going. If one of you's maybe a couple of chapters ahead, then you can encourage the other person to catch up with you. And it's just a really nice way to share the enjoyment of reading, and I think that's a really important thing to do. So that's all for today's video. I hope you found it useful or interesting. If you have any other tips, I'd love to hear them in the comments. That would be amazing. How do you get through your reading slumps? Do you just power through and keep reading, or do you like chill out for a bit and watch Netflix instead? That's what started my reading slump in October. I got Netflix for 2 months and that destroyed all my reading. I was just watching Gilmore Girls. Oops. But thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!